You're listening to The Dan Nicholl Show.
This week on the Dan Nicholl Show, coming to you from the Cape Grace Hotel in Cape Town, a guest I am not just delighted to have on the show, but a guest I'm delighted to see is actually alive. Because the last time I saw him was about a week or so ago at roughly 2 o'clock in the morning when he was being submerged not by fans, because he's a bit of a star, but instead by a group of very enthusiastic, shall we call them potential suitors, who were very keen on buying him a drink and possibly finding true love. I'm happy to say he fought them off safely and has made his way back from Hong Kong and the infamous Joe Bananas to be back in South Africa. Paul Adams, welcome.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, happy to be here and happy to be safe at home.
We flew out to Hong Kong together. Coincidentally, we were off to different events, and you'd never been to Hong Kong. And we had a long chat, and I told you, look out for Joe Bananas and look out for the nightlife of Hong Kong, because it can eat you up. A place quite unlike anywhere else you've ever been before.
And sure, that was a great experience, I think. I think when you get warned, you say you must visit that specific place. And Joe Bananas is one of that. And you can only, you have to experience to understand it. That was absolutely great, actually a great night out and something new for everyone to experience.
Well, you survived it and added to the travel chapters, of which you have many. And I want to come back to what that's been like post-career and seeing the world outside of just nets, hotels and the occasional celebration, and go back to the very, very first time that I heard your name. And I remember I was in Australia as a Rotary Youth Exchange student, living over there for a year, and that would have been 1995. And I'd come from small town rural Zimbabwe, no running water, electricity, wore shoes for the first time. And I met this tall, stooping character called Alistair Murray, who'd come out of, he was out of Rondebosch, if memory serves. And he told me, look out, there's this kid from Plumstead who is 18 years old. No one has ever heard of him. He has the bowling action of somebody who's removed hubcaps from moving vehicles, and he is going to play for South Africa against England. And I said, I've never heard of him. I know lots about cricket. People would have told me if this was really going to happen. And then voila, here's Paul Adams, this kid with a crazy action, who's suddenly from nowhere playing for South Africa.
Yeah, firstly, Alistair was also a kid then, because we were the same age. We played against each other, and he was at Rondebosch, and I'm Plumstead High. So, all of a sudden, it was quite a whirlwind. There was a book written actually called Season of Magic over that whole season of me just bursting on the scene. People always ask me about it. I said it was quite a blur, actually. For me, in that moment, I just wanted to play cricket. I was out there. I didn't know anything about interviews. It was more yes, no answers that I was giving. I remember the story I was with. My first interview was Darren Scott, actually. I played my first game for Western Province and was taking wickets. I was still on Supersport, the 4-day cricket. And all of a sudden, there was an interview call for me. And the guy said, look, Darren Scott wants to interview on, I think he was on 5FM Sport in the evening after the day's play. And he was like, how did you enjoy yourself? I said, yes. What did you think about bowling to Roy Pina and all of those things? Was fun. I was like, yeah, so it was a very different back then. Over time you just you ease into it, but
that's completely understandable, because you're 18 at the time, and you've gone from nobody outside of your immediate family knows who you are to suddenly the whole world is talking about this young kid with a crazy action. We had JP Dermody on the show not long ago, and we spoke about his dad used to phone me up at Cape Talk and demand to know why his 8-year-old son wasn't playing for South Africa. How quick was the ascension? At what point did it go from, okay, despite this crazy action, Paul's actually quite good at this, to, hang on, maybe the big time is beckoning?
Yeah, it's. I only really focused on spin bowling at 16. So for me, it was just enjoying myself, going out there, and then made Western Province schools. Went through the whole pipeline thing, but
so you made Western Province schools as a spin bowler, having only started to bowl spin age 16.
16, yeah. So I made it the B side. the under 19B. We all played. It was Nuffield week back then, the under 19 schools week. And then I made SA Cold side as well, bowling spin. But I don't know, somehow I just had always the control of the ball and spun the ball, figured things out how I needed to do it. Remember, back then there was no internet, no YouTube where you can learn and look at all these tutorials and all of those things. But it's one where you just play. And I think the benefit was that at the age of 14, I was playing against senior players. I was in amongst playing against the men and competing. So that's how I grew my confidence, actually, and just sort of had that spirit of when I cross the line over the field, I'm kind of wanting to be ruthless and wanting to take wickets or score runs.
Whether you're listening to this at the moment or you're watching it, press pause, get onto the internet, go and watch a YouTube video, even if you think you know what this action is like, just to remind yourself of a bowling action that defies 11 different laws of physics. And then, right, welcome back. You've paused and returned. I know you've told this story loads of times, but for people for whom it's not a familiar one, the action and where it came from and how it emerged. Was there anything pre-thought? Was that just this seemed the right thing to do?
The first time I picked up a tennis ball in the backyard to bowl the ball, and that was the action. Believe it or not, I tried to bowl fast with that action. I used to often be at the doctor with a side strain, but
see dislocated shoulders and a broken jaw.
Yeah. So that's why before 60, I used to open the bowling and then bowl spin, sometimes keep wickets. So you do everything just to sort of stay involved in the game the whole time. And but teachers at Plumstead, I sort of said, I think you got something with your spin. So just let's see if we can get that going, and started focusing on that. But the action's always been there. Just as I started playing a lot more, I started getting a lot more understanding. So it's like when I do my coaching and things, people always ask, are you coaching them? Are you bowl? I'm like, no, there are certain mechanics in my action that actually works. And there's a reason why I was accurate, why I spun the ball, all of those things. But I had to only learn that over the years, like, okay, what's the key things to do?
You weren't in the time, by and large, of the internet. It was just starting to find its way into the world as we know it. I still don't think the internet's something that's going to catch on, but we'll see what happens. When was the first time then, given we weren't all on smartphones, we weren't taking videos of everything that moved at all times of the day, when was the first time you actually saw your own action properly?
Yeah, it was a club game down in Grassy Park. I was playing for Club Bluebells. I was probably about 15, 16. And my brother he had a camcorder. Not many people just had a camcorder around. And he side of the field, and I was bowling. And then at the end of play, he said, "Look, I recorded yourself bowling." And I was like, "Wow, I'm very interested to see this." Because everyone says, keep your head up. And I said, I am. Then why? What's wrong? So he says, no, let's put this up and play it. And I went, whoa, no wonder why the batsmen are confused. So it was an interesting one. I went, okay, that's cool. Okay. And I just kept going with it. Yeah. Well, if you ask me to bowl like everyone around, I struggle. So, but I can illustrate it slowly.
It clearly worked, and you'd found something that you were really, really good at in an unorthodox way. Progression through to senior ranks. Go back to when you got that first, I was going to say phone call, it was probably a fax given it was that long ago, but when you found out that you were in the national mix, that you were on the verge of representing your country.
Actually, interesting story. We're playing for Western Province here at Newlands. We were up against Free State in a 4-day game. It's first day, cloud around the mountains, been a bit of rain, is a rain delay. So we taking a walk around the field, and everyone said that announcing the test squad for the next, it was for the last 2 test matches for Port Elizabeth back then, Gogga and Newlands. So walking on the other side, actually here by the scoreboard side of Newlands, and all of a sudden I hear a shout coming from the balcony at the changing room, and it was Merrick Pringle. Gogga, you in. And it was like, I was like, what's going on? It was like, no, you in the test squad, you're being selected. to be in the squad again. And so Nicholl was also there playing for Free State. He was also included in the squad. So that was quite a great moment. So both of us were there taking pics. The press was there. Everyone was taking pictures and for the next newspaper clippings. But
Did you have any sense of anticipation that it would be coming?
Look, if you look, there was a big press build up for it. South Africa was sort of even kill in the series, and it was the previous test match was the Wanderers one where Atherton and Jack Russell blocked it out for a full day. Clive Exton he bowled quite a bit of overs and unfortunately didn't take my wicket or something. So it was like this outcry. We need something different, and the Wonderkind is here. He's taking wickets and just try something. And I think back and I go, wow, they took a chance on me actually for someone who's different. South African cricket went out of the box to actually pick me. Because people always say, yeah, South African cricket is in the box. We know exactly what they're going to do and all of this. And they picked me. And I was like, oh, that's quite surprising. Peter Pollock was the selector, Sean's dad. So it was interesting. Bob Woolmer always also thought, it was a coach who was always thinking out the box or something different, but use of technology and all of that. So for me, it was, a big heads up on what it was. But it was a build-up happening. Press was all over. It was Gogga mania going on. It was crazy.
I remember at the age of 19, first year University of Cape Town, walking through Cavendish Square and spotting across the way H.D. Ackerman and going weak at the knees as a youngish cricket fan and not having enough confidence to ask him for an autograph, which is what you asked for in those days. You were pretty much the same age and now playing for your country. What was it like? You're now in a training camp with the guys who a week ago were the international stars you were looking up to.
Yeah, and I was looking up to them. I was still in my bedroom at home, but posters were still up on the wall of all these players that I dreamed of playing alongside or being like them on the cricket field. So for me, it was very starry-eyed. But I was a very quiet person back then and just wanted to play. And look, I think they were also very welcoming in bring me into the environment, just saying, look, just do what you do. They were quite excited to see, because of the bowling action, they were struggling in the nets and seeing how I go about it. So like Hansie Cronje was a captain back then. So like even when I bowled my first ball, I was saying, you next up to bowl. He just tapped me on the shoulder and says, just do what you have to do, brother. It's you know what you do best and just go about it and enjoy the moment.
Do you remember that first delivery?
I don't remember where it went, but I think they blocked it. I do remember the first wicket though. Bowled to Graham Thorpe. I'll call it back of a length.
You bowled him a long hop.
Back of a length, pulled straight to John D. Rhodes and mid wicket. So that was my first test wicket, and not a long hop. Back of a length, rushed him. Hit the stickers.
It kicked off this extraordinary career, and you got to bowl to some of the great batsmen of your generation, some of the great modern cricketers. I'm not sure if we could go quite as far as saying that Steve Waugh was your bunny, but he was one of a number of really quality cricketers who we recognise as greats who struggled with Paul Adams.
Yeah, I think it's like periods of their career. Sometimes they played me well, and then there was maybe a series where just everything went my way. I think it goes like that with ebbs and flows of cricket, either where they are in their mental space. For example, my first series against England, Graham Thorpe was going through some times in his life, and while he was playing, but he just struggled. And I used to watch him play against Shane Horn, and I wondered, like, why is Graham Thorpe struggling up against me? And he's like playing like a master up against Shane Warne and that. So
I mean, Shane Warne was no Paul Adams.
Yeah, no, but it's like, so I was like, how's he struggling? So when you can also identify that as a team or just as a player. When you actually got the hold over them, you want to take advantage. And I used to always sit also at short leg. So the moment I got a sense of certain things, I'm all over you. So I was all over them. Back then, there wasn't like, oh, you must protect the better space, and that's so I was right next to you. I'm on you, and you know when you got Alan Donald, you got Fani, you got all of those boys that are running in on the other end. Hopefully you can back yourself up there.
And you're not averse to having a conversation, so I think that was a great space for you to be in. You mentioned Graham Thorpe, and obviously we know how things played out very sadly for Graham Thorpe, and he's one of many international sportsmen who've really struggled with that space of mental health. You had this extraordinary start. Here's this 18-year-old kid with the whirlwind action, Andy Capistano's famous frog in a blender, and you captured the world's imagination. But it comes a point in pretty much every athlete's career where things suddenly don't go quite so well. And in this case, all right, well, we've seen the action loads of times. It's no longer this novelty. Batsmen get more used to playing you, and suddenly things become harder. How difficult was that stretch for you?
So with cricket, there's always ebbs and flows. There's always ups and downs, and you gotta look at yourself back in the mirror and say, look, okay, let's assess things here and see where we have to go. So in my career, there was quite a few of them. Either you have setbacks through injuries, where I had quite a major one with a finger by the boundary. I dislocated and sort of damaged some ligaments there, and then it changed the feel of my grip. And I had to find a way out to I could still bowl certain variations in my action. So if you have the mentality of that you wanting to still be out there, and you are able to have that mental strength to stay strong, to believe in yourself, to be able to go out there, then you can achieve it. It's when you sort of keep putting the negative on you, and your belief disappears, and that's what happens, and then you fall into that trap of you always doubting yourself. And there were many moments of that where, especially when you're bowling and you're always thinking, what happens if he hits you for a six? What happens if this ball doesn't land right? And you're on national TV, what do you think? They call it the yips. And there's lots of moments of that. But you hopefully have a great support system around you. I had that period as well where I had to go see someone, and we almost reset the mind of what is the focus when I get up to bowl, and then you work on routines to really just stay zoned into actually the moment. That's why there was quite a few things last year I was doing with the women's cricketers at the World Cup about mindfulness, how to actually just stay present. I think as any sportsman, big lesson is about being present and being right in the moment, so you can actually execute your whatever you need, whatever you're playing, in that space. Yeah, I struggle at the golf, though. I can't stay in the moment, but cricket,
That's all of us.
I'm
That's all of
fine.
us.
So I get tested still now and again when I have to bowl at the coaching clinics or go and things, and I go, this is how you're gonna bowl, and this is the action, and I have to go, okay, big deep breath, stay in the moment. Hopefully the body doesn't snap and don't get that negative thoughts in your head, and then still bowl and land it. Yeah.
It's hard to imagine Paul Adams in a dark place, because you are always on the outside, at least, such a happy, cheerful, always there with a smile, and you make people around you feel good. It's one of your wonderful attributes. But that's not always going to be the case, and you do have to draw on the things that give you strength and remind you of what's really important. In your case, you've got a few of those. One of them is family, which I'll come to, but also the fact that you did do extremely well. And if I was in your case, I'd be stopping random people and showing them on my phone highlights of my cricket career. You had some incredible deliveries. What was the one that you remember most fondly?
Yeah, like you said, there's a few, and often it's the ones that just rip out the rough and spin square. There was a delivery actually earlier. I'm going to mention Graham Thorpe again. There's a delivery, East London, one-day game. Dave Richardson broke his finger actually in that game, and Gary Kirsten had to keep wicket. If anyone's got that clip, please send it to me. But it's one where Gramthorpe goes to leave the ball and the ball pitches in the rough, and Gary's looking for the outside edge, and he's a left-hander, and the ball spins in through the legs, going to the stump. You just see Gary on the outside with his hands, and he's going with his leg, trying to stop the ball by the stump. Lucky the stump's got in the way. So that's it was quite a cool ball.
I think that one's been hidden by Gary Kirsten. I sure nobody can ever find it.
No, that's his when he was keeping back in the day. But I quite enjoyed that delivery as well. Yeah.
Oh, rightfully so. Having those performances to look back on always does help. I know what I've done. I can be good at it. But it can also, when things aren't going so well, have the opposite effect. Well, I'm not doing so well anymore. And so you do need to find other ways to pick you up. Tell me about family, about you've had a very supportive family around you, and then also moving further down the road, becoming Paul Adams the dad, and how that's changed who you are.
Yeah, so family played a big role in supporting, and obviously being on the road a lot, and encouraging. So when you come home, they also level you. You're not the guy, you Paul just there at home. You're not the superstar. So that, especially when I was young, traveling, and before I got married, and then with kids, then Paul Adams the dad was, well, actually none of the kids really watched me play on the world stage. I was end of my career. Retired in 2008. My daughter was born in 2007. So that's when I was more Paul Adams, the coach, around them, and finding my way in the other side of cricket, commentating, coaching, in that sort of side of things. So they never really experienced the Gogga playing out in the field. So that was, it's interesting how they saw me going up there.
The stage that you're now on is on the post career, but cricket's still very much a big part of what you do. Juggling being a dad with traveling the world, we've already mentioned Hong Kong. The travel now is a bit different to the travel of when you're playing, because now you can allow yourself a little more freedom. You can see a little bit more of the world, and get to experience stuff that as a traveling cricketer you don't always get the opportunity to.
Yeah, so it's an interesting pathway I'm at, especially over the last 2 years, being involved with Cricket South Africa, and part of their high performance coaching staff. So and I've been appointed as the spin bowling lead. So I work across different teams. So it's not like I've got one specific team as a head coach and I'm managing everything. So when I'm on tour, there's that group, and then you look to see where you can assist and help and grow them, and work with the pipeline players through the system. And then now and again, you get invited into a Proteas setup. Like last year, I went to Dubai with the World Cup. What a great experience it was. We got to the final. Unfortunately, couldn't get over the final hurdle, but what a superb experience, spending time out there. But, I always tell the cricketers who are on tour and traveling the world with, is actually to embrace the cultures the way you're traveling. I felt that brings a sense of calmness, and actually your cricket or your sport, actually you perform better than just sitting there and you in your room and you're not wanting to go out, and your focus is so much on the cricket. You can put too unnecessary pressure on yourself. So it's not about going AY or anything like that, but learn about the people, learn about cultures, understand how things happen in that country, and especially in the subcontinent where cricket is everything. That's the place where you want to learn, and you want to actually understand why do they love cricket that much, and the culture is just absolutely cricket mad.
You've been there often enough now. Does it still take you by surprise that you can land at an airport in India and suddenly 8,000 people don't just know who you are, but they know your batting average, your bowling average, every statistic you've ever had? It's a level of sporting passion unrivaled anywhere.
Yeah, it's you get a big surprise actually when you think you can just come in there all chilled. But you get followed. You think you're the Pied Piper there, and you're walking around. So it's actually, you get a good feeling, that people really follow the sport with so much passion and so much energy, and I still get messages today like, "Where are you playing, sir? Where are you still bowling?" And now and again, I do make a reel or post on me bowling, and then the reels just come in. The people, best action and all of that stuff. So yeah, in India and the subcontinent, it's amazing when you tour there. You should try it one day there, Dan.
It's very much on the list because we share a love of traveling and of seeing the world, and it's something we've both got to do a fair amount of through the different things that we do. There is a particular allure as a cricketer or cricket fan to India. What about the rest of the travel? What are the places that cricket, either during or after your career, has taken you to, where you've managed to go beyond the cricket field and find something different, something that's really struck a chord with you?
Besides Joe Bananas in Hong Kong, but it was it's fine. But one of the most enjoyable tours I was actually out in the West Indies. So going there, you go to the cricket field the moment you're back, and we're fortunate enough to stay in like those top hotels and resorts. It's all on the beach, and you just you spend so much time in the water and you relaxed, and it's like you on holiday, but you still zoned in onto cricket. But it's quite quite an experience to tour the West Indies and that. So each tour actually has its positives and difference about them. If you go to UK again, you don't have the efforts of airports and that. We're in a bus, so you're with a team constantly. And the touring of a bus is you're always together and you feel this togetherness a lot. And then you also get the history of the game that comes around. And I always found that very interesting. You're going to the UK and how those each different field and how each region actually how they love the game as well. In the UK, you always have autograph hunters. They're standing outside, they're waiting, and they got like the oldest photos of you or the oldest memorabilia. They collectors. They are the ones that are like those real collectors that live out there. They sit in the UK. They got. I've never been at games where you have people sitting there and they're actually scoring the game. They're in the stands and they buy the score sheets, they buy all those things. They're sitting scoring about the game. They love that. That keeps them actually focused and in the game.
There's a particular breed of anorak that cricket inspires that I'm not sure any other sport can come quite close to, and it is so much in the blood. Although it's not the only sport, and again, if you're watching this, you'll know. If you're listening, adorning the broad shoulders of Paul Adams is what I think is an authentic, but I'm not 100% sure, Newcastle jersey. Where does that stem from?
Yeah, authentic Newcastle jersey. And I actually love this one. It came out this season. It's I've loved Newcastle since way back in like 94, 95 when I used to watch a lot of football. And then I had to start making a decision. I've got to support a team. And one particular player, Alan Shearer, who I loved watching and enjoyed his energy and what a legend he is. And drew me towards the Newcastle team and supported them since. So been through all the ups and downs, and there's a few cricketers around like Rory Kleinfeldt who we've lived through the pain.
Rory also a Newcastle?
Yeah, Newcastle fan. And back in the day, Kote Grovier used to be he passed away, but he was a Newcastle fan as well. When there's a plenty of us, and we've come out slowly out the woodwork now and again. But it's it's a big love of mine watching Newcastle play.
And you get to now in the post-career do a lot of things that during your playing time you don't simply have the time for. And it seems, as the time I've spent with you, the conversations we've had, that Paul Adams, after some challenges, you're in a good, happy, calm, smiling space, and that the Paul Adams on the outside does match the Paul Adams on the inside.
Yeah, a good phase in I feel I'm in a space where I'm also developing myself off the field of cricket in terms of not just coaching for Cricket South Africa. There's things outside where there's been a burning of me, a yearning of me to do, starting up a Paul Adams Foundation where I want to encourage kids in the community to really play sport and look up to the heroes on the cricket fields. That there's different avenues to go, and there's lots of challenges, social challenges out there. And I always felt that sport is the biggest difference, can make a big difference in our community, and we've seen it. History in South Africa, we've seen what sport can do for community and people for South Africa. Brings us as one. It creates a common goal amongst people. There's no differences in that. Then also I do my private coaching in that, where I sort of run clinics, and I go around the country and try and give the knowledge that I've got as well. There's lots of kids who don't have access to me in terms of Cricket South Africa high performance program, and I feel if I go down and run programs down below, we'll get more spinners coming through and working in the high performance program, and try and get that knowledge tapped into younger cricketers, get them developed. So through the foundation and those clinics and that working together, we try and hopefully uplift some sporting talent.
So running the foundation, a lot of coaching, traveling the world, unearthing new talent. What do you think 18-year-old Paul Adams would have made of where the 47, 48-year-old Paul Adams is today?
The 18-year-old Paul Adams was oblivious to what's actually out there. all 18-year-old Paul Adams was all about was a ball and a bat, and that was it. But it's taken some time. It wasn't something that it just happened overnight. It's coming here towards the back end, and I think timing of certain things are important. When you're in the right mental space, when you've got actually the experience, or you've gained a lot of knowledge, or your connections with people is important in that sense. So yeah, I think I'm in a good space in terms of getting those areas of my life moving, and getting to where I want to still fulfill a lot in my life. Yeah.
It's a journey that's not yet complete, but it's already got an extraordinary collection of chapters. I do hold you at fault for a couple of things. One is the scrum at Joe Bananas, because it took about an hour to get out of there because of your fame and allure. The other is ending up on painkillers for about 3 weeks once after attempting the Paul Adams action quite late at night after a braai. But it spoke to the fact that there were so many people around the world who you initially, I think, caught the attention of because of the unorthodox nature. But once you got beyond that, you said, hang on, yes, it looks a bit different, but there's one hell of a cricketer here. And I think the third level to that, which for me is the best of all, is that beyond the action, beyond being a great cricketer, there's an amazing person behind all of that. And that's the one I'm very privileged to know and hang out with, and very grateful to have spent some time with today.
No, thank you for such kind words, Dad.
Well, you did write them for me, so I'm just reading them off the sheet. All right. Well, maybe we'll have one last crack at the bowling action when we're in the nets after a braai and a couple of bottles of red wine.
Yeah, I've also got to have those painkillers these days. So
again, if you haven't seen it before, do it now. If you have, go back and remind yourself the action that took the world by storm back in 1995 and kicked off one of the more unusual but more heartwarming stories in the history of South African cricket. Certainly not gone from the game, but now combining it with some world travel and lighting up the occasional Hong Kong dance floor. My guest on the Dan Nicholl Show this week, Paul Adams.
You're listening to The Dan Nicholl Show.